The kids that we're taking care of, the families we're taking care of, are coming from Montana. It's not Helena, Montana. We're Eastern Montana. We're Western Montana. 99% of our kids are Montanans.
So Shodair is the Montana Medical Genetics Program, and we serve patients of all ages across the entire state. So we see patients from before they're born until the end of their life for a number of different indications.
The Children's Miracle Network Hero Program is a program that is across the country in each state. And so each Children's Miracle Network hospital will identify a patient that they've served in some way. And so the purpose of it is to show the work that's being done across the country in each of these children's hospitals. They're being able to say, this is the work that we do in this hospital.
Okay, so there are 4 bases: adenine, thymine, guanine, and cytosine. Adenine always bonds with thymine, and guanine always bonds with cytosine. And so when reading it one direction, I have a deletion in thymine. It's a frame shift mutation, which means that a trio of bases makes one, amino acid, which is, they're connected in a chain of proteins. And when you have a deletion of one base, then that shifts the reading frame for all of the other ones. That means that for the rest of that gene, every acid that I have, amino acid that I have, is shifted slightly. It'll be slightly different. It's one of the more severe types of mutations.
What we did is we tested a panel of genes that includes the genes for Marfan syndrome, but also Loeys-Dietz syndrome, which is a relatively recently recognized connective tissue disorders that has similarities to Marfan syndrome, but it's different and it's caused by changes in different genes. When we tested her for genes that are associated with Loeys-Dietz syndrome, she tested positive for one of those genes, and that essentially nailed the diagnosis of Loeys-Dietz syndrome.
Well, I think Katie really exemplifies all the characteristics of the ideal genetics patient. She's brilliant, she's inquisitive, she's a researcher, she wants to gather all the information that she can. And I think her story truly exemplifies genetics as a family affair. Because of her diagnosis, her mother was subsequently diagnosed, and ultimately her grandfather, and all of their medical management has been altered significantly, and we expect that all of their lives will be longer knowing this information now.
Last year, her pediatrician again recommended, based on Katie's growth, and she had some slight scoliosis, which is also, can be a symptom of, or a part of Marfan. So we went and had her tested, and Katie really wanted to be tested at that time because she's very curious about things and listened intently to her pediatrician and decided she wanted to know. So she was interested and she wanted to know, so we got her tested. And sure enough, she didn't have Marfan's, but Loeys-Dietz is sort of in the same area. And that's how we found out that she had Loeys-Dietz.
I've lived in Yellowstone all my life, summer months, and then I started staying in Yellowstone permanently in 1993.
I've lived here since 1994.
It supported her, or fostered her love of science. Yellowstone is very much it's a natural laboratory. It's with the wildlife and the ecology and the geothermal activity right here in Mammoth. It's
That ties into genetics.
Arterial tortuosity is one of the symptoms of Loeys-Dietz, but it hasn't previously been described as a symptom of Loeys-Dietz type 5, just with the earlier ones. Arterial tortuosity is when the arteries kind of twist around each other, and though it hasn't been seen in other patients with Loeys-Dietz type 5, all of my family members with it have the arterial tortuosity.
When we lived out at Northeast, Katie and I spent a lot of time talking about things in nature. We'd go outside and go for little mini hikes and And I never talked to Katie like she was a baby, because she was always thinking, even when she was little. So we would have conversations about outside and nature. And so she just always has been interested in nature, I guess, and science. And then, of course, Miss Jones came along when Katie was in 7th grade, I think is when Miss Jones started at the school.
I think because her and I have such a good relationship, it's a lot of fun. She's very enthusiastic about whatever it is that we're learning about. And if it's something that we're not enthusiastic about, she'll tell me. She's like, I really don't like this very much. And fortunately, our scientific interests are quite similar, so we're able to get into a lot of really good conversations. In my experience, I find it's really wonderful to have her in class, because it's someone that I can talk to. It's someone that I can use my big words, and I can talk about processes, and even if she doesn't understand it, she'll ask questions until she does understand it. And it's almost having a peer, in a way, that I just had the opportunity to kind of introduce some new things to her, and very quickly she knows just as much as I do.
Freya's mom, Katie's grandma, is got her PhD in biology, and so it's, I think even those visits with grandma and being with Freya, who's got her master's in biology or sciences and such, is that's just been passed on seamlessly to Katie.
So she already had a very firm background in genetics. In biology, we go over just the basis of a gene and gene expression and how that works. And then in genetics, I took it one step farther, where they started to learn the structures of operons and how multiple genes work together and how that turns into actual proteins and protein folding. So she had a good firm foundation, and as we were learning this stuff, she started mentioning to me, she's like, well, I'm going to go get tested. They think I might have a genetic disorder. And we would actually look through the textbook, and she'd say, maybe it's this, maybe it's this, maybe it's this. So already starting to try to pick things apart.
So interacting with Katie, who's 16, is like interacting with an adult. She's so well-spoken, she's so thoughtful, very intelligent, information-seeking. She has asked that we send her medical literature so that she can learn from the same sources that we learn. She is not the average 16-year-old girl, that is for sure.
I like imagining the systems taking place inside me. Did you know that we have a ATP synthase, an enzyme in our bodies that it spins like a water wheel to create the ATP, the energy that our body uses to do its processes. And so all over you, inside your body, are these little enzymes that are spinning. I mean, if that's not cool to think about.
With knowing the diagnosis of Loeys-Dietz syndrome, I think Katie has a very bright future in front of her. And the other part of what's so exciting with Katie is that she's very interested in what's going on, and she's very interested in why this is happening. She really has taken ownership in this diagnosis, and I think that is also very helpful. So she has a very, I would say, positive outlook on that, and she has every reason to have a positive outlook.